before we get into the good stuff,
Yeah.
you were at Sprout Social for 4 years.
Yep.
How many Chicago trips did you have? What's your favorite food?
Oh my
There are
gosh.
right and wrong answers.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Legit, I don't think I can count how many Chicago trips I've had.
Okay.
There were moments when I would go out there every other week when we were super busy because
Yep.
a lot of our team was actually in the office,
Yep.
both in Chicago, but also in Seattle and in Dublin. So I transitioned between all
really
of
close
them.
to each other.
Yeah, really close to each other and all super close to Vermont.
Yeah.
So easy to get to. So, I mean, dozens and dozens of time over the time that I was there.
Favorite food then? Or
Favorite food.
Or restaurants. There's a million ways that you can go about this.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago is known
Yes.
for their food.
Yes.
Everything there is absolutely wonderful. And I bet my favorite restaurants, some of them aren't there anymore, which is a bummer.
Which ones?
Oh, what was that great? There was a great vegetarian vegan place in the West Loop.
Okay.
But not totally. It was called Bad Hunter. And
I don't know if I've heard of that.
Loved it. Bad Hunter,
Yeah.
like the most creative name. How can you not love it as a
Yes.
marketer? Then what were the other ones? RPM was a big Italian favorite of the locals
So
there.
I actually, this is funny, and was not prepared to talk about this, for putting in some extra work on the report. Our two co-founders gave me a nice little gift card to the RPM restaurant.
Oh, no
group,
kidding.
like literally the other day.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be using that. I love the RPM restaurant group.
Yeah, that was by far a favorite.
So when you were at Sprout, you were in customer marketing. Had you worked in customer marketing prior to that?
Ish, I would say. I didn't actually own the role of customer marketing, but when I took on going in-house in SaaS, I started out my career in agency where you just kind of do everything.
Did that? Yeah.
Yep, most people have, and you understand all the hats. But I started out my career actually at a company, Hotjar, which a lot of people know, which is a big CRO growth company.
That was like the kind of heat mapping
heat map,
tool,
session
right?
recordings, much more well-known in the CRO space. And so a lot of what I learned while I was there is the importance of customer research and connecting qualitative with the quantitative and all of the research that goes into how do you know your users and buyers. And so while I didn't actually own the title, customer marketing, how I fell into it at Sprout is I was previously doing marketing strategy and coming up with our segment strategy approach for all the different users. And we started to see that there was this huge opportunity to lean into retention marketing. And so started it off as customer marketing. We built our own playbook for what that looked like at Sprout, leveraging kind of that strategic customer research approach.
Yeah, and I feel like customer marketing is still in the earlier stages. So if you were at Sprout a couple years ago, I mean, what, it was like 4 or 5 years ago, I think?
Yeah, roughly about 3 years ago.
You were way ahead of the customer marketing game. So when you were building out that playbook, what did you do?
Started with research, a ton of it, just a ton of research, and then started to really prove it out. So my customer marketing team at Sprout was comprised of a lifecycle marketing team. So we did all of the customer journey mapping, all of the onboarding, end-to-end customer comms in partnership with the product team. We had a customer experience team, which was focused on community and customer education. So they really went in and did monthly webinars, but also eventually launched, they now have a really great community that my team had started to spin up and work on for a customer community hub and a learning center where we can start to give more ongoing learning. And so a lot of what I worked on in the early days was working cross-functionally with our entire business on a robust onboarding program, better customer education, better customer learning. I think the hard part in customer marketing is while I was doing that, I know, like you said, customer marketing is so new. And there's such a small community of people that did it. So I worked really hard on building that community. So I started to connect with a ton of customer marketers in the space. We had our own little Slack channel where we would get together before it became big and just share ideas. And as we started to kind of learn more from each other, I continued to work on building out these campaigns that brought impact from a retention perspective so that we didn't turn into the customer marketing team that people get confused as a swag management team or things that you'll often hear. So I really focused on outcomes similar to what you would do on a demand gen side. And in the time I was there, our customer marketing team turned out to essentially end on the same size as our acquisition team. And we just had one team focused on retention and growth and expansion while we had our acquisition team building up new demand.
So you mentioned retention a couple times. Measurement in customer marketing is always this kind of like fuzzy, difficult thing. How did you measure your impact?
Oh, so many ways. So it starts with the North Star. I mentioned retention because that is your goal, right? When you think about the playbook for acquisition or new business, it's your goal is revenue, and it's essentially new business, and that's very easy to measure. For us in customer marketing, it's net dollar retention, which is what is the sum of customers that are expanding, those that are churning, and the overall retention as a whole, and how long they stay with you, and that's where we get there. How you get there is not a straight line, like with acquisition. It's squiggly, it's all over the place. And so we started to set up these sub KPIs where we would look at things like product adoption. And so one of the first steps is, what is the aha moment? How many customers get there? How do we get there that much faster? We then started to break up our retention into short-term, mid-term, and long-term retention. And so your short-term is, how quickly do your customers drop off in their early onboarding stage? How quickly do they kind of drop off in that mid stage? And then when do they become lifers? A lot of businesses will use what's called a retention curve, where eventually your retention wants to kind of look like this and it flattens out. And you can determine where your biggest challenges are in retention by seeing those biggest drop-off points. For us, as we started to get our retention curves and figure out all those sub KPIs, we would start to then apply different campaigns or different initiatives to the different stages. So big drop off in short-term retention equals onboarding. Run some onboarding programs, work very closely on determining what does success look like for us. And then honestly, it was putting a stake in the ground and saying, here's where we are today. We're gonna need to measure that for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and see how that continues to grow. And over time, your data becomes consistent, but there had to be some faith in kind of building the data, building the playbook, and then continuing to report and stick to it.
That was probably the best answer that I've heard about how to measure customer marketing, and I've recorded a couple podcast episodes on that. So I've heard some good answers, but that was a great answer. So from Sprout, before you got to Bitly, was there another stop in between?
Yeah, I went to Teamwork, which is a project management platform. I was there for a little bit more than 1.5 years, almost 2 years, before I got recruited to join Bitly.
All right, so tell me about Bitly, because I was on Bitly's website yesterday as I was preparing for this.
What'd you think? We just launched a new website.
All right, we'll talk about that in a second. I, like most people, I feel like in marketing, think of Bitly for one thing.
Yep.
Is that something that you're having to fight with, like the new positioning and messaging on the site and everything like that?
Can you tell on the site?
I could now.
Great.
Yeah. Well done. Yes.
Thank you. So that's part of what actually was so exciting about the opportunity in coming to Bitly. If you're in marketing, you probably know Bitly. And that is something that we absolutely do not take for granted. But the biggest challenge when I was first talking to the Bitly team is that Bitly is synonymous with links. And Bitly's been on a journey over the last few years on, one, how do we continue to monetize? How do we continue to grow? But two, we've transitioned to platform, but most people didn't know.
Connections platform, right?
The Connections platform, yes. Thank you.
Yes.
So we transitioned to platform to where, we do have links, and we are still the world's leading link management company, but we also have QR codes, which has been booming over the last few years, and did a huge launch with a competitive QR code about 1 year ago that's been just growing like hotcakes, which is awesome. We just launched a new landing page tool, which was previously our link in bio.
2D something?
2D barcodes.
See, I was looking. Yeah.
You were. This is really great research. I'm going to give the marketing team so much props. They're doing great. 2D barcodes, that's a fascinating story in and of itself.
What is that?
Yeah, so there is a company called GS1 Connect, which is essentially a nonprofit business that manages barcodes. And so think about it, you go to a retail or you go to a consumer packaged good product, and there's always a barcode on it, and then the place that you're at, they scan the barcode, right? And it goes off to supply chains, and that's that. GS1 is the company that essentially has made a big statement in that the entire CPG and retail industry is actually moving from traditional barcodes to a 2D barcode. In the most simplistic terms, what is a 2D barcode? It's actually a QR code. The biggest difference with a QR code that is a 2D barcode is that it will have a code behind it called a GTN that essentially when you scan the barcode, it does what a barcode traditionally does and sends off the code to the supply chain and anywhere else to track the product itself. But the end user, the company that manages that barcode or that now QR code, can manage the destination. And so you can send your QR code now to a landing page to talk about where the product was made, to talk about if it's a food product, how's the health, like what are the ingredients that on it, where is it coming from? And you can manage the customer experience in a completely different way. And so right now, companies are kind of in this ad blindness where you get a product and it's got a barcode, maybe it has a QR code, maybe it has a smart label, and all different things that you can do. And so it's consolidating all of those into one, and super proud. Our product team is amazing that we were the first QR code company to launch a 2D barcode product offering so we can work with this transition that industry is going through.
So does that change up who you all can sell into then? Like, does that open up new possibilities? This is coming from somebody who doesn't know anything about barcodes.
Well, I love that you said possibilities, because last year we ran a brand campaign called The Possibilities.
I wasn't looking at the website then. That was pure coincidence, but.
It was fantastic. So it does change the possibilities, or the possibilities, in a yes and no way. So part of what makes Bitly so awesome as a marketer, but also as a product, is we honestly serve everyone, from SMBs to mid-market to enterprise to even consumers, and then the same thing across industries. Every industry is adopting QR codes or links in their own unique way. And so the use cases are hundreds of thousands of different ways. When you go into a retail store like we talked about, you might use a QR code or a link to bring you down a specific destination, however you're trying to get there. But when you go to the doctor's office, you might also get a link before you go there to check in, to fill out your paperwork. It's making the customer experience completely different. And so our product and our platform and this evolution we've been going down is really to be the enabler of bridging between that physical and that digital world, but to make it easier for customers and consumers to connect in ways that they never could before.
So before we get back to the good stuff, I'm just happy that QR codes actually caught on in a good way.
Totally.
Because for the longest time, my memory of QR codes was when you were driving down like a highway and there'd be a QR code on a billboard and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna crash my car and go scan this thing. Like, in what world is that gonna work?
We literally did a do's and don'ts of QR codes, and that is a use case that we had as a big don't.
It's
We're not putting QR code on a billboard.
Whose idea was this?
It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Not safe.
So when we were prepping for this, you were talking about, you sell into SMB, mid-market, enterprise. What types of proof points do you need to support all those different motions?
Honestly, it's use cases and really starting to help our end consumers understand what is the outcome that they're looking to drive, what is the value that they're looking for as they think about what they can actually garner from a connections platform. And that is very different depending on the user and depending on the use case. So we spend a lot of time actually talking to our customers and leveraging our customers in our own marketing. And so when I talked about the Possibilities campaign, we actually used our customers as live case studies. When we talked about billboards or when we used our digital marketing, we would talk about customers like Rad Power Bikes, which I don't know if you're familiar with Rad Power Bikes.
Like e-bikes or something?
E-bikes, they're one of the most...
Those things go really fast.
They go, and they're amazing.
Yes.
We have Rad Power Bikes, a bunch of us in the team. And I love the product, but what Rad Power Bikes is doing, it's pretty incredible, where they're actually using QR codes and links in the entire customer experience. So you go online, maybe you use a short link to get to their website, you decide you want to buy a Rad Power bike, they ship it to your house, and in their paperwork, there's QR codes you scan that send you to YouTube videos on how to build your bike. Or there's areas that you can go in and share your customer experience, and it's all done through this very effortless, non-touch way. And so when it comes to how do we differentiate or how do we help support SMBs to enterprise, we do it through showing the value that you can get from the product through the many and multitudes of different use cases and customer stories that we have.
So what do customer stories look like that at Bitly?
In what way?
Where's the focus of the customer story? I mean, you mentioned use case. Like, the customers, are they really at the center of the story? Is it videos? Like, what are you using?
All of the above. So we'll work with some of our customers in building out different videos and bring them down the journey. We have stories that we have in our content that we'll then promote. We also have influencers or advocates that will share their own stories, whether it's on social or continuing to kind of spread the word on how they're getting value out of using the platform.
I love that. So how do you quantify, I guess, the impact, or what kind of metrics do you have to show value of Bitly?
Both internally or externally as a marketer?
Let's start with internally, and then let's go externally.
Yeah. So internally, I am a huge believer in, and I think we talked a lot about this at the event that we're at this week, huge believer that everybody needs to understand their role and what value they bring and what outcome are they responsible for as it ladders up into those top level goals that we've talked about. And so there's sub KPIs across the board that we'll work on. So if we're talking about use cases or if we're talking about impressions, it's about the impressions, but it's about, are we garnering more traffic to the website? Is it quality traffic? Are we seeing in our sign up funnel, it's not about how many people are signing up, but are they the people that we're trying to attract as it comes to specific industries or specific ideal customer profiles that we know we want to grow in our overarching funnel? And so everything kind of starts with the individual's sub KPI that will work together on figuring out. And so there might be your very clear goal, and some teams have very clear goals. And then we might use what's called a learning goal. And so with some initiatives that we haven't run before, if it's brand new, like influencers is a new area that we're tapping into right now, we'll put in that this is what we believe that this is going to achieve. And then if we hit the number, great. If we were way over the number, it's like, cool, we did a bad job figuring that out, but now we know. If we were way under, same answer. So it's really about learning and then establishing how do we show the value of the work we're bringing. I think the other piece of that is communication. Oftentimes marketers, I think, don't realize or find the importance of how much you need to communicate internally to bring people in to the work that you're doing.
You're talking like one of the biggest believers in internal marketing, and I actually got that from Dave.
No, totally. And that's, I mean, it's through and through the most important thing you can do. If you don't share the value that your team is bringing and the amazing work that they're doing and the things where we're falling down and failing forward, then people don't really know what you're doing and they don't understand, like, why are we doing this wacky little influencer program that we're working on right now? And so we work really hard on figuring out the cadence for how do we manage up so it's not too much information at once, but also give the right level of insight into the work that the team is doing.
Well, and I mean, user evidence is much smaller, but what I've done here and then what I had done previously at my last company, you then grow the size of your marketing team because the rest of the company is your marketing team.
Exactly.
And if they can get excited about, like, not just what marketing is doing, but how their different function of the work that they're doing supports the overall company goals, then everybody is like an extension of your team and just gets excited to be a part of it.
It's a win-win.
So let's talk about the research that we did. We just launched this yesterday.
To see this.
Yes, it's awesome. So we surveyed 619 total B2B buyers, sellers, and marketers, and we asked them very similar questions, sometimes the same questions, across each group to basically just see what do buyers want and what are they getting, what are marketing teams creating for their sales team, and what does sales think that buyers need, and then what are they getting from their sales team. So feel free to thumb through. I've got a couple crazy stats that blew my mind. I think the two that stood out to me
Kyle's
the most.
Kyle's the best.
Oh,
stands out.
He is one of my favorites.
Shout out to Kyle if he's listening.
He gets enough shout outs. I love you, Kyle. The report shows 9 out of 10 sellers wish they had better customer evidence.
Oh, I'm so glad we're talking about use cases and customer stories.
Yes. What are we doing? Like, how can we fix this?
More customer stories, I guess. Like, we just need to do more of that.
But I wonder why. We asked a couple people that we'd interviewed today, like, why are sellers like not happy with what they're getting?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's just too broad or not, industry specific or relevant to the prospect that they're talking to at the end of the day. So they don't even bother sharing it. And so marketing thinks they're doing a great job, and little do they know that whatever they're creating is not actually getting used.
Oh, that is a bummer.
And then the other huge one that blew my mind, and I used this in the announcement post on my LinkedIn profile yesterday, 74% of buyers just don't trust the customer evidence that they're seeing from vendors.
Well, that is a lose-lose.
Why is it a lose-lose?
But if they want more content, but then they don't trust the content or the user stories?
Well, they don't trust what they're getting right now.
Oh, they don't trust what they're getting right now. So what did you find was the solution to that?
You can keep that report. That's specific to you. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
I won't give it away, but they really want specificity. They want quantifiable, credible proof points, and they want a lot of things that really marketing teams and reps think are less important than what they're currently getting.
So what they're not trusting is more of the non-customer research or the non-customer studies, so more word of mouth, more context that you can share from the voice of the customer is what kind of helps that trust signal, which makes sense. We all know that, right? I think one of the things that's hardest, and I've seen this really at every organization that I've been in, is building customer stories and getting those customer use cases. It's way harder than sometimes you think it would be. I think sometimes it comes down to we overthink it. It's
marketers overthinking? Yeah, who do that?
Same. Yes. Doing a lot of peace signs here. I'm really feeling it.
Yeah, you said you weren't going to go this.
That's not my doing the peace signs. We're jamming.
Yes.
I think some of it is you're trying to find the perfect customer. You're trying to find the perfect use case. Or oftentimes I also hear people are afraid to reach out and ask. I actually see this within my own community. People I've worked with before don't want to ask me to be a story for them. And I would love to. Anybody that has worked with me or that I've worked with them, I am always available to jump on and do the work together. But we're so cautious on taking up other people's time.
Is that what's preventing people from asking? Is that what you think?
I think sometimes. I think it's the combination of preventing people from asking too much of people. I hear that one a lot too. And then sometimes it's, is this the perfect case study? And sometimes it's a good case study.
Is there a perfect case study?
Never. There's never going to be. I mean, if there is, I'd like to see it. I think they're all perfect, actually, because they're all great proof points. But it is surprisingly harder. So, if you're a Bitly user and you're listening, we would love to tell the story. And the customers that we worked with in our out-of-home campaign, it was a win-win for all of us because we were not just talking about Bitly, but also talking about these customers and all of the amazing stuff that they do as well. And so really leaning into that, I think, is just... it's an incredible opportunity when you can figure out how to untap into it.
Last question for you. Did you ever think there would be a marketing event in Vermont?
Definitely not. So I'm local.
Yes, that's why I asked.
Yep. I was talking to Dave about this earlier today where we're like, oh my goodness, like it's a community finally here. And it's so funny because there really aren't a lot of people. And I've maybe met one or two this week that live here that are going to be now my B2B marketing.
So are you in Burlington then?
I'm in Burlington. Okay, I work in this office.
I didn't know that you were like that local. I knew that you were in Vermont.
Yeah, my desk is right on down. I was sitting there right before I came in here for the interview.
So you were the easiest walk.
Easiest commute ever.
Everyone.
Best event I've ever spoken at. I don't need to travel anywhere. It's like all my people are coming to Vermont. So
that's amazing.
Dave and I are talking earlier. We just have to figure out how to do more of this.
Favorite restaurant in Burlington.
A few people have asked me that one. I've got a few. Honey Road is one of my favorites.
I ate there Sunday night.
Did you love it?
Incredible.
It's incredible.
Yes.
Incredible. Mediterranean tapas for anybody listening.
All right, so I'm 1 for 1. Yeah. Second favorite restaurant.
Santiago's is new.
Did not go to that.
It's right on the water, and it's kind of a Cuban infusion.
I love that.
Amazing. Best vibe ever when you walk in, or you can sit outside too, but the inside is great. If you're looking for a really great steakhouse, right next to the hotel I think everyone's staying at, which is Hotel Vermont, is Hen of the Wood.
So I have a reservation there tonight.
You're going to love it. It's on the upscale pricey, but it is worth every single penny.
Ray, you did not hear that. Evan, you did not hear that. I'm paying for it out of pocket.
My bad.
No, you're good. And then the funniest part for us and really Dave, so we went out to, what's the flatbread
American
pizza place?
Flatbread, yeah.
That was some of the best pizza that I've ever had, and I eat way too much pizza in Chicago.
Well, which one did you get?
We got the margarita, and then we got the, Alex, the
new Vermont sausage?
Yes.
New Vermont sausage, that's my favorite. That and peppers and pepperoni, if you go back.
As we're walking in, it was myself, Alex from our marketing team, and then Devin Reed and his wife, Shali. We were walking up, and I look, and I think I see Dave, but then it's also dark out, and I'm like, I don't know if that's him, and then he's doing the same thing. So we see each other, we start talking, he's like, this is the first time that I've ever been walking the streets of Vermont, and I see people that I'm like working with in the industry. I was like, this is hilarious.
And it's happened to us 1 or 2 times. We'll be out to dinner with our families. I remember this one time we were at a restaurant in South Burlington, and Dave's walking up the stairs, and I'm sitting at a table. It was the first time we saw each other in person since he moved here, and we were like, because it just doesn't happen.
Yeah. That is amazing. All right. Thank you for this.
Thank you.
I had a lot of fun. Great. I think we got to do what? The
peace signs together?
This is a blast.
Peace, love, and ice cream, right?
I missed ice cream. That was my one regret today. Yes.